Welcome to the Sid City Social Club for Tuesday, May 10th. We're glad you're here. We're going to go ahead and get started here. I have some people who have signed up for tonight. We've got several birthdays that we're going to get through. Plus, we've got more people coming in, and I've noticed that the latest Zoom update has switched the admit and the remove buttons. So I keep almost booting people, and then you can't get back in. So having to gotta remember that. All right, over to Sid.
Hi guys, it's really cool watching everybody come in at the beginning, and that when you flood in, it's like watching penguins, jumping off a little cliff into the water. A whole ton of them go first, and there are a few having technological problems, just flapping their wings on the edge, whether they can get it or not. And a few just slide in past a few others, a few bump others in. It's great fun. So yes, I don't have a big political diatribe today. Nothing to report on that front, so I'm not going to bum you out. So welcome. And let's get cracking.
All right, we're going to say happy birthday to Molly.
Happy birthday, Molly.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, everybody.
Molly, when is your birthday?
It is this Sunday, the 15th.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't believe it's already been a year since you wished me happy birduation last year. Time flies.
This must be a really exciting time for you. Not only is it your birthday always comes at spring, which is the time you get out and get busy. You get working. You're out there.
Yeah, well, actually, right now I am on Martha's Vineyard, so not too far from you, relatively.
Absolutely.
Have you been out to the vineyard before?
I did. My nephew, my niece, not my niece, my cousin, my uncle's daughter got married out there, and so I went to a wedding.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here. I mean, it's not really the touristy season yet, but it's just starting to be springtime, so it's really nice, and I'm out here catching bees. So and what's great is that once on my trip back, I'm going to be passing through Boston, and so we're having a mini Sid City Boston meetup, and we're all going to get cannolis at Mike's Pastries, so it's going to be great.
That's lovely. That's fantastic. You've got is there a particular type of bee that is prevalent to Martha's Vineyard at this time of year that you thought, well, I've got to get to the vineyard?
Yeah, so Martha's Vineyard and the outer islands of Massachusetts in general are really amazing for biodiversity of all kinds, because they're these sort of relict habitats that don't exist anymore on the mainland. A lot of like pitch pine, scrub oak barrens, a lot of sandy dunes, and there's a lot of unique species of all sorts of things that just are hanging out here that you can't find any other place. And so there was a survey done several years ago that actually found over 180 different species of bees on this little island. And some of them have no other records in the entire state of Massachusetts. So any time of year, there is a really good time to go find bees, but we're always looking to add more species to that list and find rare things. There's the potential to find some really cool things, and I do some partner work with the Martha's Vineyard Atlas of Life, which is an organization or a project down here to document all biodiversity. So I'm doing some field work looking for pollinators with them and helping them document those things. So it's nice to get to travel some cool places for work.
Absolutely. And how's it going so far? How was your day-to-day, for example?
Well, the weather's not been super great. It's 26-mile-an-hour sustained winds with 40-mile-an-hour gusts.
Okay.
So needless to say, we found 3 bees all day. But otherwise it's nice, and I think it's going to get a little bit better the rest of the week.
That's really cool. And so what about the people you work with? Are you a lone soldier, or do you work with a group?
But yeah, I'm working with a couple of people who are doing this inventory, the project, and then at my regular job, I work with a team of people. I mean, I do a lot of stuff on my own, but we do a lot of collaboration on stuff, because pollinators can be incorporated into a lot of different things.
Yeah.
There's always a space to add that in. So luckily there's a lot of people to work with who are enthusiastic about learning more about pollinators. And a lot of what we're doing here is there's just so many small farms on Martha's Vineyard that are practicing really good sustainable practices, and they want to do more with pollinator habitat. And so we're helping them figure out how they can add habitat onto their farms. So that's a lot of what we're doing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it's really good that they want to do that. But I'm seeing YouTube videos from all over the United States doing that. People in, deep red states, deep blue states, all over doing work, trying to turn towards no-till sustainable farming.
Soil health is connected to the plant health, connected to the pollinator health. It's all, I'm really glad. And it's it comes back with, making better food for people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great to see that happening here.
And have you started to find that you are becoming, taking a more holistic approach, even though you are specializing now? Because you've finished your dissertation, you don't have to worry about the problems of like staying in your lane, for the sake of academic. Have you found that your subject incorporates so many that you started taking interest in some of the other subjects that have a Venn diagrammatic kind of relationship?
Always. I definitely don't want to get pigeonholed even for just pollinators. I mean, my undergraduate degree was, conservation biology, wildlife biology. So that training initially was for all kinds of wildlife and habitat management. And I want to make sure I never lose those things. I do a lot with birds already, and I'm moving more into plants, more into plant propagation, gardening, and how that all relates to habitat management. And all these things are connected. To single out pollinators and what you need to do to save pollinators, that's the same things you need to do to save everything else.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is just getting people to understand that you don't have to chop these things up into what can I do to save the bees? I'm like, well, it's the same thing to save the birds and to save soil and all of that stuff. So yeah.
I went down a kind of rabbit hole on soil because once you start, it just gets really fascinating quickly.
Yes, yeah.
And I come from, as you know, a horticulturalist. My mum's a gardener, a really, really good one. And so I had a kind of interest in how the mechanics worked. And every year we pull up these weeds and we compost them, which is terrific.
Yeah.
But pulling them up is not a really great idea, it turns out now. And that's such a different way of thinking. You should really just cut them down and let them rot on the floor, actually in situ. And if you've got other plants coming up, it's in rotation. You can hide the ugliness of that, but underneath the fact you've got this new plant growing on top.
Yeah.
And that's kind of if I'm correct, and I might be wrong, that's kind of the basis of the philosophy of no-till, is that the soil will take back everything that it provides you.
The soil is meant to be stratified into layers, and once you start tilling things and homogenizing that soil, that completely messes up the dynamics of all of the soil organisms and the aeration and the moisture and the weed seeds and everything. Yeah. It's I've been taking a lot of webinars and moving more into meadow management and how we restore things like turf grass lawns into native pollinator meadows. And so much of that is different methods that you can use to create that blank slate and get that soil prepared to put in native plants again. And so many interesting methods you can use to suppress turf grass that work with the biology of those grasses, and how you can suppress turf grass while encouraging native grass without using herbicides and without doing destructive means.
Because we all are on a slight mission to reduce the size of our lawns.
Yes.
And it'd be really nice to find ways to break them up and still leave enough space for kids to, get filthy, but have some other interest. How for beginners, what would you say just might be a good thing to start easing into, and kind of the edges of the lawn if you're going to creep in and do something interesting?
Actually, right now is no mow May is a thing that we're moving into, where it's just encouraging people not to mow their lawns as often. Increase the height of your mowing and you reduce the intensity of your mowing frequency. Just that'll let things like dandelions and clovers flower, and that alone, that's like not even getting rid of lawn. That can make so much of a difference for just giving bees in urban places spring food sources. but that's, I mean, that's definitely what we recommend is when you want to get started, don't try to do everything at once because it's going to be overwhelming. There are 1,000,001 different designs that you could come up with based on what goals you have aesthetically, ecologically for your yard. I don't know exactly the soil types in your part of Massachusetts, but up in New Hampshire where I am, it's all sand. And lawns do not grow well where we are. Nobody's lawn, they all look patchy. They get yellow in the summer, and a lot of it's in the shade. And there are so many alternatives to lawns that you can, if you want to start somewhere, look for the places in your lawn that the lawn's not growing well, and is it worth it to even have a lawn in those places? And if you're in the shade, there are sedges or ferns that you could put in. There are a lot of native ground covers, whether it's some kind of phlox or wild strawberries, or there's a really great plant called barren strawberry, wild ginger, all sorts of different things that'll just create a really nice ground cover that you never have to mow, and it'll be a host plant for all sorts of butterflies and moth caterpillars, which then songbirds eat, and you'll have more birds in your yard, and you'll have more pollinators, and it goes on and on. And luckily, these sorts of lists are available, you know, for regions, for your state, more and more if you just look out for your cooperative extension or to the Xerxes Society or all these different places. Those lists are available for your specific region in the US and stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. That's such good advice. Thanks a lot. I know we have bees here. I haven't seen any yet. And I know we have bees because I know we have a bear. We've seen the bear. And I know bears can't live where there's no honey. So we must have bees.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Molly, our environmental warrior. You're so,
thank you.
So lovely to have you. Are you well, by the way? Are you okay? Everybody okay?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks, Molly. All right, we're going to go wish Gabrielle a happy birthday next.
Oh,
Gabrielle.
How's it going?
Very good indeed. We just saw each other a few weeks ago.
It was a couple months ago. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm, you know, like gripped by the awareness of my own mortality because it is my birthday, but besides, doing great.
Well, happy birthday, Gabrielle. I know that people.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Wow. It's really surreal when it happens to you.
It is. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's happened to me too, and it's one of our. It's our thing, I think. And tell me, what are you gonna? What's your plan? Are you gonna do anything fun? Are you going to treat yourself in any way?
I'm going to treat myself, arguably, objectively, too much. I'm going to two very good restaurants up here in the Cambridge area. Tomorrow night is maybe the best birthday present, and tomorrow is actually my birthday. I have insisted that we save the final episodes of Deep Space Nine for my birthday, which I know, admission, haven't finished it yet. But we're getting there. We're ready for it tomorrow. And then I'm going to the Boston meetup with some of these
good
folks, so that's really exciting. And I do eat cannoli.
Yeah, that'll be good fun.
I'm gonna throw myself under the bus here, so folks on Saturday, don't be too hard on me, but I used to be a tour guide in the North End, which is where we're going, so I am versed in Boston history, and I'm excited to go back.
You are going to be so valuable.
Maybe. I know a lot of weird dessert facts.
I love the fact they have those lines on the sidewalk. You can follow them depending on what tour you would want to do. It was like a red line and an orange line.
Yeah, the Freedom.
Yeah, the Freedom Walk or something like that.
Freedom Trail. Yeah.
Freedom Trail. That's what it is. So they're good for that. Yeah, if you go to Boston, look down. There'll be some interesting little things to have a look at, which is kind of cool. That's brilliant. Well, it's lovely to catch up with you. I hope you have a brilliant time. You know, there may be some vlog pressure after your Boston trip.
Yes. I don't want to take up too much time because we did just talk, and this is quick birthday shout out, but I wanted to let you know that the last time we spoke, I had teased that I was going to be joining an activist marching band, and I've done it.
Yes.
I have infiltrated their ranks.
Oh my goodness. That is fantastic. What are you pretending to play?
Oh no, I actually play the
Of
clarinet.
course, I'm joking.
Pretend to play.
This is great.
Oh no, it's happened. Well, no, so
What happened?
Oh no, Mel is, so I did send media to Mel, but now I've gotten very bashful about it, and I'm on the fence about whether we do it. But my activist marching band we played a gig. We played a climate justice festival.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. What could you possibly be shy about? Oh, that's fantastic. That's lovely. I'm so glad you showed that us.
Yeah, it's more loud than good, I think, but that's sort of the point of these bands.
It's great. It is good. It's genuinely good. That's really tough to do, and I love the people dancing. It's just round and round in a circle, like whirling dervish.
Yeah, there's a dance troupe associated with the band, but also just a lot of people come in from the crowd and like to dance. Little kids love these bands.
Oh, that's so great. That is wonderful. And where was that again? That wasn't in Boston. That was in Cambridge?
Jamaica Plain.
Jamaica Plain. Like, is that a town?
South. Yeah.
Okay. No, that was lovely. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. It was really great. We'd love to see more. I'd love to see. I'm absolutely, you were holding the camera, so we didn't get to see you play, but you know, we're working on that.
Next time I'll hire someone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabrielle. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to meet somebody new. Josh.
Oh, good.
Hello. Hi, Sid.
Josh, hello.
Hi. So
Hi.
I'm new here. I definitely want to hear more about your koi pond. But before we come back to that, if it's okay with you, I thought I would introduce myself, and then I also I also have a question that I would really like to ask you. So
yeah, fire away. Well,
okay.
So who are you?
All right. Yeah, my name's Josh. I live in Springfield, Illinois, in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I am professionally, I'm a civil rights lawyer. Outside of work, I am a poet. I am a long distance runner. I like to go kayaking. I watch an insane amount of weird horror movies. And I am I'm a person who's in general interested in sort of authentic empathy, which I think is part of what drew me to you and this group. So
you sound like the perfect kind of guy everyone wants to befriend. So yeah, this is a good introduction. That's a good hello. You're out there, you're intrepid, you're trying to improve on all sorts of levels. That's fantastic. That's really cool. What sphere of civil rights law is your meta?
So I work for the United States Department of Justice.
Yeah.
So I represent the United States government and everybody who works for us or comes into contact with us in anything you could imagine, except for criminal cases.
Yes.
And so, and I have to be very clear, I'm speaking as me, not in my professional capacity.
Of course. Now, and you know, this doesn't even have to be recorded. It can be edited. So feel free to.
Yeah, thank you. But to more specifically answer your question, I do a lot of constitutional law. I do a lot of civil rights work, so discrimination cases. And I also have the unique privilege of enforcing the American with Disabilities Act. So I go throughout our communities and I make sure they're physically accessible to the disabled. And then I also make sure that the disabled and other groups are not treated differently or worse because of their disabilities.
That's a subject pretty close to our hearts here. So that's a really fantastic thing to be doing. And do you find that cases, how does it work? Because you can't really solicit cases. You can't go find problems, can you?
You know, that's a really good question. Cases, you know, the answer is surprisingly, yes, I can go find problems. And in fact, because we have this unique we're in this sort of unique situation where we are the public entity, and in some ways we're the only people that can by law enforce some of our disability laws. It's totally appropriate for me to give speeches or to go talk to people or go out into the community and find what the problems are and then do something about it. And you know, at the same time, we also get a lot of complaints that, you know, people seek us out through complaints that they file. So.
Right, because that's, I mean, that you're a constitutional expert, and that strikes me as slightly controversial, because you're always you're on, in terms of 14th Amendment stuff and due process, and you know, self-incrimination, etc., etc. You're the man. You know, you're the government.
Let me tell you,
it's written to protect us from the government.
It's very controversial, and I mean, I'll tell you. So to go to the heart of your question about I'm the government and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. You know, I started asking questions about what are we going to do here, and you know, the advice that we get can change based upon who politically is in office.
Yeah.
But part of my position is we have a lot of independent authority as well to be the guardians of what the law should be and what our institutions should represent. So I was told by some people, just win the case, you know, use your skills, beat him up on cross-examination and make a jury not like him. And you know, I probably could have done it. But I said, no, you know, he may have a criminal history, but he's a human being too, and we didn't treat him right. So I got authority to sort of go rogue against Washington D.C. and the best I could do is, you know, we settled the case and tried to do what we could to make it right.
Well, I love what you're doing, and it's a very important thing. Thank you for filling us in a bit on that. What you wanted to ask me a question? What was it?
Yeah.
And welcome, by the way. Welcome to Sid City. I just threw you in the deep end there.
Thank you. If swimming in the deep end feels safe with you, so thank you. Yeah, my question is, what drew me to you, and sort of so the first time I saw you in person was at Chicago when you were speaking on a panel, right. And it was just clear to me. I mean, you just radiate genuine warmth. It just at all times. And I think you've created a community of people who share those values too. So that's really, it's really unique.
Yeah, we
and
found
really
each
nice
other.
to see.
We kind of create each other. This is like a kind of weird biology experiment.
When life has gotten really hard for you, what have you done to protect and to nurture that part of yourself?
That's a really good question. And the answer is probably quite controversial, because in a way I do shut down. I do withdraw into myself a bit. I just narrow the places where I lose energy. I might lose energy. So I'm not as sociable. Of course, I'm with the people who I live with. I'm there. That I don't shut down there. So I might just withdraw quite a bit. But that's just to try and because it takes a lot of energy, as you know, working with people. To engage for a long period of time at the level that they require and they deserve. And then I'm really kind to myself. I genuinely do things that make me comfortable.
What does that look like for you?
I do the things that I feel are indulgence, that normally I would deny myself. So if that might be, if I feel like a glass of whiskey, I'll have a glass of whiskey. If I feel like watching TV, you know, staying in bed right until the last minute, and, you know, I'll do that. Or I might buy the morning for myself, say pull a sickie, as they say in England, just say I'm not well, and which is kind of true, and just play a computer game, just do things that make me feel like I'm in my body, I'm present, I'm listening. I think you would do it to your children. You would occasionally give them fun, and they respond really well to constant, little and often kindness, little and often. So that's what I try and do, if that's helpful.
It is. It might not be whiskey for me. It would probably be vegan ice cream, but
hey, you know what? Exactly. It's whatever that thing is that makes you go, this is totally self-indulgent.
I mean, I think clubs like this where we can actually slow down a little bit and talk to each other help. I think remembering these values in our daily life to just be a little bit more patient and talk to people if we can. It won't solve the big problems, but it can start.
It definitely will solve the big problems. It just is, as you say, the start. We talk about our communities, neurodiverse and gender diverse communities, who are going to have enormous uphill legal fights coming. They're now going to have to figure out how to message and to say things that people who are antipathetic, have antipathy to them, or prejudiced against them, accept. So messaging is about kind of morphing in a weird way. And I don't think you can do that if you spend your whole life on the back foot. You have to have places like this. You have to have all the lovely little discords that have been generated in this community. Everybody's online chatting to each other. And that gives people this amazing confidence to go, oh, I can probably pull this off.
Yeah, and I think it gives people a little bit of safety to be vulnerable, and I think it's when we see each other's vulnerability that we care a little bit more, and we feel a little more able to share and be vulnerable ourselves, and then
so right.
and then that's how we start connecting beyond some of the things that drive us away from each other.
You're so right. God, huge subject, but it's really good that you brought it up. And you found us last week.
Karen is responsible for bringing me into
this
family. So yeah. So I met her and a few people at Chicago, and so I've been to a few meetings, not many, but this is certainly my first talking to you. So.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you did, and I think your work is incredibly valuable, and you seem to have exactly the right attitude for it. I see you all as like the people whose service we should be thanking a lot of the time.
Well, thank you for saying that. It means a lot, and I know it's not just me who's here, that we all see you, and we see the genuine warmth and empathy and care that you have put into this, and so thanks for sharing your energy with us in this way.
Thanks, Josh. That's really cool. No problem. It's my pleasure, literally.
Well, it is ours too. We're sending it right back to you.
Lovely meeting you, Josh. Come on back anytime. I'd love to hear more. Talk a bit more about the attack on the 14th Amendment and stare decisis and a few other things that are in real jeopardy right now. And I'm really curious to hear your point of view about that from a DOJ point of view, as well as from a Josh in DOJ point of view. But that's for another time. Come on back whenever you feel.
These are important issues, and it would be my honor to talk with you again.
Yeah, because that will help people understand a bit about what a stare decisis is, what's the point of it, and what is due process, and why do we bother with it. But that's a great chunky thing for next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks for joining us, Josh. All right, on to more lighthearted questions.
I love
conversation. We're going to meet Michael. This is his first time chatting with you as well.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Michael.
I'm Michael.
Hi. Where
Hi.
on earth are you?
Like everybody else, it seems I'm in Chicago.
You're in Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a strong Chicago kind of component here, but I think that may be something to do. We all just hooked up in Chicago a couple of weeks ago.
Possibly, quite possibly, yes. I
really
saw
cool.
you at your panel there, and I went over to the booth of the fans of this, and like I signed your little banner thingy there and talked to somebody, and then was like, "Oh, you should join. Sid would really be interested in the stuff you're doing." Oh, yeah, I should do that
I'm
stuff.
sure I'd be interested in the stuff you're doing. Your computer is at least 4 years old. Am I correct?
I have very bad internet access here. Yes,
Okay, that's what it is.
It's true.
I just.
So I'm sorry if I'm all pixelated.
No, you're not. You're not. You look like you've been like they used to put Vaseline on the lens of cameras back in the old days in Hollywood movies to make the stars look more beautiful, more mysterious. So you've just got some Vaseline on the lens right there.
I have never heard that before. That's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, how have you been throughout all this mess this last 2.5 years before you found us in Chicago? How did you get through this whole thing?
Well, I wasn't in Chicago. I was until last July. For the 3 years before that, I was in Berkeley, California.
Oh, okay.
And I was doing a master's degree, trying to get to a PhD program in ethnomusicology.
Wow. So how did you wind up doing a master's in ethnomusicology? What was the pathway of crumbs from graduate student to or light bulbs is probably better that led you to ethnomusicality?
So I'm a fiddler. I'm a violinist. I've been a violinist since I was 9.
Right.
I started off playing like, very, like classical music, in orchestras and stuff. And then,
which is no mean feat, by the way. Classical music.
Sorry.
That's no mean feat. When you say like a kind of throwaway in orchestras and stuff, you don't just walk into orchestras. You actually have to impress 1 or 2 people.
That is true. I'm building it up like that because after a while I was like, I don't really like this very much. I felt it was too rigid.
Yeah.
I like, where they're telling you like, oh, you have to make sure that your bow goes the right direction, the same direction as everybody else in the group. So you have to write down which directions your bow goes at which different notes and stuff like that. And I was just like, this is taking the fun out of music. I don't really like this so much. I discovered klezmer music, which is music of Eastern European Jews. Think like the music that they play in Fiddler on the Roof, that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And I began playing that, and I just, it just opened up all of this stuff for me. I'm like, okay, this is music and it's emotional and like it's not rigid and like I can feel it. Yes, I'm there. I like this. Okay. So I went on, I've done quite a few other things. I studied anthropology in college and also some music stuff too. But like started also doing like Middle Eastern music and Middle Eastern music ensembles and stuff. And I lived in the Middle East for a while. And then like eventually it got to the point where I was like, no, I really want to go for this PhD in ethnomusicology. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And it didn't go so well, honestly. I enjoyed parts of it, but I didn't quite get to the PhD part. I wasn't really feeling the academia thing.
That's really interesting because I didn't feel the academia thing myself when I was a youngster. Part of that is just simply laziness on my part, because I just didn't want to do quite as much work as I was being asked to do. And I really wanted to get on with having fun. Which all the other 20-year-olds were doing at that time in life. And I was earning money in London and for the first time in my life. And that gave me a kind of lascivious taste for freedom. I could, go and spend it in a restaurant, or I could buy myself something. And I wanted more of that, less of the dry, academics. And I studied anthropology too.
Nice.
And so, but the Levi Strauss and all that all that kind of sociological anthropology, social anthropology, sort of people watching that all that stuff. And I found that a bit weird. But nevertheless, it was.
It is kind of, honestly, because I also have a master's in political science, and I wanted to do like music and political science stuff, and they were just like, you want to explain why things happen? We don't do that. So.
Yeah, I had the same problem. My problem was actually based on lack of vision of my particular academic sphere. I was doing anthropology and geography, and one of them is largely it's social engineering. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's a pretty dark term, and I don't really mean social engineering like, Nazi social engineering. I mean, how do we build houses that poor people will be attracted to? Why do people move around in cities, and how do we stop that happening, and how do we get more population, and how do demographics? And then the anthropology was, as I said, was a kind of voyeuristic thing, and I didn't like the voyeurism so much, partly because I felt a bit patronized as a North African person, because a lot of these subjects were, we went to a village in North Africa, and if you're ever so quiet, you can see the children behaving naturally here. Like, what the hell is going on? And anthropology in a way is a bit like, people describe quantum, and the very observation of it changes it. I sympathize with you about all of that, and I'm really interested to find out where you're going to in your musical life, is because I know, listening to someone like Bela Bartok, for example, he will find a lovely the kind of music that you were explaining, a rural piece that may have died, or he heard at a wedding or something, and he'll really play around with it in one of his pieces.
To be honest, I'm not sure where I'm going next with my musical interests exactly. I just play for fun at this point, like I went to this program because I wanted to do a PhD about music in Israel-Palestine, music and the conflict, and how it can create barriers with other people, but also how it can help break them down.
Yeah. What was that went, not so much for me?
The truth is, in the program, it didn't have as much to do specifically with Israel-Palestine stuff. I mean, I went there because there was somebody there who was doing music in Israel-Palestine, and he was kind of like my supporter in this. Right, but the rest of the department didn't really like that.
Workplace squabbles.
Yes.
What is ethnomusicality?
It's the study of music as culture.
Right. That's really interesting. To how does it get introduced at parties?
Well, I've been trying to figure out how to introduce that at parties, and I still haven't really found a very good way of doing that. But now it's more about trying to use qualities of music and analyze them, how they can be used to communicate and reflect ideas that are prominent in cultures, and how they view themselves and the world. Does that make sense? Is that a good explanation, I guess?
No, that's a really good explanation. And I can completely see it through the Eastern Jewish prism, because from the outside, and I'm saying this as a Muslim, as an Arab, obviously, as well as I'm many other things, but there just happen to be a couple of tags that can be applied to me. I see the Jewish Eastern European Jewishness that may have been shattered to the four winds all over the world. That certainly that Yiddish tradition as being quite tight, quite buttoned up, and emotionally quite sparing outside of the house. But the music interests me because it feels like that would be kind of a release, and I am pretty difficult to I'm pretty opaque most of the time. But watch this, listen to this. And I can see how that would just bust through all prejudices and problems you might have, because you can listen to music with the sound only and not see who's singing, and not be able to identify or pigeonhole them. And that's kind of what you mean, that transformative nature of music, in the sense that it surpasses us as and our predispositions as humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm being obviously very generous, very generalized, and also
Yeah.
I suspect probably on some level xenophobic, but I'm not trying to be. It just because I'm creating distinctions where maybe distinctions don't exist.
So I think I wouldn't say that there was an aspect of what we would call Yiddishkeit, like the Eastern European Jewish culture. I wouldn't say that there was exactly a tendency for being like pent up exactly, like perhaps in some ways as a response to like prejudice around. I would say maybe more insular, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
yes, this and music in some ways was a release. Like, so you're right. It was a way of like breaking down. And if you also hear this music, I mean, it is frenetic. Like you hear this wedding music, it's just so wild and frantic. Like, whoa, this is so amazing and exciting. And so many emotions.
And but I'm also watching, Jewish TV series, Israeli TV series, and they're very self-critical of the orthodoxy, and the lack of emotional outreach, and the kind of closed doors everywhere. So that really interested me in that because the guy is, the guy in the documentary I'm talking about is an artist, and just writes and draws things in his book, and he meets someone who his parents are trying to get him married, and he's reluctant to show his art, and then he does, and she likes it, and it's like, oh my God, you just blew my mind, because you're not meant to enjoy this. This is heretical, really. So I'm really curious about those two, the counter opposition of music and that sort of inlaid cultural religion / everything.
I'm also speaking in generalizations, kind of, but like,
yeah, well, we kind of have to in this sort of sphere. I mean, to treat it like a sociology discussion, I mean, which we're not citing any data, but which they do.
Right.
But we have to come up with these assumptions and discuss them. So I'm interested in this line of attack, partly because in Orthodox Islam, music is actually banned because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And so that's quite a good illustration of how how culturally significant music can be.
There is, in some ways, something similar to that according to Jewish law, but it's specifically against women singing in public.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So African American culture has evolved in America musically in one of the most astonishing. That's kind of one of the most astonishing stories in American history. Is the evolution of African American music from this amazing boom discovery of a jazz form that kind of evolved from that, and a blues form that evolved from that, and a rhythm and blues form that evolved from that. And I mean, the amount of the productivity in the African American scene has been truly astonishing. Is that interest you academically as an artifact of culture, a cultural artifact?
It does interest me. One of the things we did as part of our funding in this program is to student teach, and so I actually student taught a course about music in American culture, and basically it was a course about how music has been used throughout American history as a way of constructing race. There's actually a book out there called Love and Theft. It's a very interesting book, and it basically describes white Americans' interactions with Black music as theft, as cultural appropriation. The idea put forth in this book is that white American culture and society over the years gradually grew interested in African American music and loved it so much that they stole it.
Yeah, sure. Well,
I mean, again,
Elvis Presley,
Elvis, exactly. There is a tremendous amount of interesting stuff there, and the ramifications it has had on the history of this country and the political history of this country from music.
If you had done a doctoral thesis, what would it have been? What would have been your nutshell sentence?
I did actually have an original idea. There's a Lebanese artist named Fayrouz, who's a very, very famous singer and is just lovely and wonderful and makes my heart leap with joy whenever I hear her. Anyways, she's an amazing singer. And I learned a few years ago, I was having a conversation with this woman from Syria, and she was talking about how Bashar al-Assad during the war has been using the music of Feiruz as part of his propaganda. And these are songs that, you know, people grew up with and love and have associations with home and family and community and stuff. So I just found that fascinating. And I wanted to do something about, you know, what are the effects of a dictator using a beloved musical figure? How does that affect conflict? How does that affect people who are going through conflict?
Well, it's a soundtrack, isn't it? I mean, that's what it is. It's become he's exploiting the soundtrack potential of Feiruz, and make sure I mean, you know, that every time that, you know, one of the political leaders, doesn't matter which one, Democrat or Republican, come in the room during the you know, the election, they've got some song like Bruce Springsteen or, you know, Born in the USA or I don't know, whatever it is. That it's a soundtrack. They're enhancing their ability. It's fascinating. I'm so glad you came to talk. I'd love to hear more about that. Of course, you know that I was interested in. I'm very interested in that subject, and everybody else knows I'm interested in that subject. But I'm interested in communication and anything that that gets us communicating with each other, especially in this rather unpleasant time where we're very happy to eviscerate each other without even thinking about the mess that we're creating and the kind of roadkill, emotional roadkill on the side of the street. You know, when we grew up, we were bullied. Most of us were bullied in one way or another. Even if you're the prom king, you will get bullied at some point, and it's devastating. And it seems to be now that we're all bullying each other on a constant basis, that is normalized. And music's a really good thing to cut through that. We're both in industries, me too, where we can cut through that and get to people's hearts, and just open a dialogue, which I really like. Thank you for making time, and thanks for sharing all that information. Come on back.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I'd love to come back at some point. I really would.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. All right, we're going to wrap it up for tonight, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye.
See you.
Good night.
Good night.